Are you turned off from watching a film if you find out that it is a sequel? Some of the folks in Hollywood seem to think this is the case, which is why there's an article in Variety discussing the ways that sequels are being renamed. So instead of saying that it's a part two, or even discussing or saying something is a sequel, some of the language that's being used is a retelling or a new chapter or a reimagining. And an example of this, they refer to the example of the Social Reckoning, which is being described as a companion piece to The Social Network. Now, the interesting thing here is when we think about language and we think about how people self-describe, I don't know that that's the natural phrasing that somebody would use if they're describing themselves going to see a film. You know, I'm going on Friday night, do you want to see this companion piece? Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. I do think it speaks to a bigger issue, which is some disinterest or some wariness around sequels, even though the reason they exist is because people do want to see them or will see them, and they do make money. And also, I do think it depends on when the film was made. So if you have a film that came out, let's say 2023, 2024, and the part two is coming out in 2026, I think it's seen as more acceptable for that to be called a part two. Whereas with legacy productions, or where we haven't seen a film from that same franchise or from that same IP being made in over 5-10 years, that's where this naming convention is more applicable. But when it comes to how people think about these things, if you are hearing about a film that you haven't heard about because the last time it was released was last decade, of course, when you hear about it, you're going to call the new film the sequel. It seems to be a natural way that people would describe it. Except maybe the exception is with films where the numbering is part of the excitement of what the film is about. So for instance, like a Fast and Furious, where it's like, oh, they've made another one and another one and another one. It points to a larger issue of how you tell the next chapter of a story. And I think sometimes people have different reactions. It's like, ugh, what could they possibly do with this character or this plot 15 years later that would be interesting? And then of course there's people that are like, I wonder what those characters are up to. I'm interested in seeing that. And maybe that's where the naming, the numerical convention, whatever, matters less. And then there's people that are indifferent. And so it's not just the language that you use around the story. Of course, it's the trailer and everything else that we see in anticipation. For you personally, I'm curious, does seeing that a film is a sequel make you interested, or does it turn you off?